And that is why immigration attorneys are sending urgent warnings to green card holders across the United States right now. Because a single trip abroad could cost you everything you spent years building. If you are a green card holder and you have traveled internationally in 2026, or if you are planning to travel this year, there is a new framework being applied at US ports of entry that you need to understand before you get on any plane. Because what you do not know about this policy could result in your green card being revoked, your re-entry being denied, and your family being separated. Not because you did anything criminal, but because of how your travel pattern looks to a Customs and Border Protection officer running a real-time check on your file. By the end of this video, I am going to walk you through exactly what this new rule is, who is at risk, and 7 clear steps you can take right now to protect your green card and protect your ability to come home. Let us start with what actually changed. In March 2026, the Department of Homeland Security rolled out what is being called the Travel Risk Framework for Lawful Permanent Residents, meaning green card holders. This framework formalizes a set of scrutiny triggers that CBP officers now apply when a green card holder returns to the United States from international travel. The framework was not a single dramatic announcement. It was a policy shift in how existing re-entry rules are interpreted and enforced. And the enforcement is real. Officers at major international airports are running real-time checks on returning green card holders and flagging cases that meet certain criteria for secondary inspection or further review. So what actually triggers this scrutiny? The first trigger is trip length. Green card holders who travel outside the United States for 90 days or more in a single trip are now facing automatic additional scrutiny under this framework. The legal standard for green card abandonment has always existed. A permanent resident is expected to maintain the United States as their primary place of residence. But the 90-day threshold is now being applied much more aggressively than it was in previous years. The second trigger is destination country. DHS has identified a list of countries that it classifies as high risk for the purposes of this framework. Travel to countries on this list, which includes several nations across South Asia, West Africa, and other regions, adds an additional layer of scrutiny to your return regardless of how long you were there. The third trigger is what CBP can find on your digital footprint. Officers conducting secondary inspections have the authority to review social media activity and other publicly available digital information. If your social media shows activity suggesting you are building a permanent life outside the United States, property purchases, long-term employment abroad, content indicating you do not intend to return, that can be used as evidence of abandonment intent. The fourth trigger is the absence of documentation showing your ties to the United States. When a green card holder re-enters after international travel, especially extended travel, they may be asked to demonstrate that the United States remains their primary home. If you cannot show an active U.S. job, a U.S. lease or property, dependent family members enrolled in U.S. schools, or other evidence of maintained U.S. ties, the officer has grounds to question your intent to remain a permanent resident. Now let us talk about what this looks like for real people. Green card holders who have traveled since January 2026 are reporting experiences at airports that they have never encountered before. People who have re-entered the United States dozens of times without incident are being pulled into secondary inspection after routine international trips. Secondary inspections that used to last 30 or 40 minutes are now lasting several hours in some cases. Officers are asking detailed questions about employment, housing, family, and the purpose of extended stays abroad. In some of the most serious cases, returning green card holders have faced immediate proceedings challenging the validity of their re-entry. The fraction of travelers facing immediate consequences is still relatively small, but the direction of enforcement is clearly moving toward more scrutiny, not less. And the people who are most exposed are not people who abandoned the United States. They are people who traveled for legitimate reasons, caring for a sick parent abroad, completing a work assignment, attending to family matters, and came back without the documentation to defend their intent. Here is the core problem. A green card gives you the right to live permanently in the United States, but that right is conditional on actually making the United States your permanent home. If your travel pattern, your trip length, your destination, your digital presence suggests that you are living primarily outside the United States, CBP has the authority to argue that you have abandoned your residency. And in that situation, the burden shifts to you to prove otherwise at the port of entry. If you cannot prove it in that moment, the consequences can be immediate and severe. We are a new channel dedicated to giving you clear and honest U.S. immigration information. If this is helping you understand your rights and your risks, please subscribe right now. We cover these updates specifically for green card holders, visa holders, and immigrant families who need accurate information, not panic and not confusion. Now let us go through the 7 steps you need to take to protect yourself. Step 1. If you are planning any international trip that will last longer than 6 months, apply for a re-entry permit before you leave the United States. A re-entry permit is an official USCIS document that authorizes a green card holder to remain outside the United States for an extended period without being found to have abandoned their residency. You must apply for it before you depart. You cannot get one after you have already left. It provides significant legal protection when you return and signals to CBP that your extended absence was authorized and planned. Step 2. Before any international trip, even a short one, gather documentation of your U.S. ties and carry it with you when you return. This means a recent letter from your U.S. employer confirming your active employment and your return date. It means recent pay stubs showing ongoing U.S. income. It means your lease agreement or mortgage documents showing your U.S. residence. It means any documentation showing that your family, especially children, is based in the United States. This documentation does not guarantee a smooth re-entry, but it gives you something concrete to present if you are questioned. Step 3. Keep your trips as short as practically possible. The 90-day threshold is the point where automatic heightened scrutiny begins. If your travel can be structured to stay under that threshold, even if it means returning briefly before going back, that matters under the current enforcement framework. Every day under 90 on a single trip reduces your exposure to the abandonment intent flag. Step 4. Review your social media before you travel. This is not about hiding anything legitimate. It is about being aware that publicly available digital content can be reviewed at a port of entry. If you have posts that could be interpreted as showing permanent settlement abroad, property purchases in another country, content suggesting long-term foreign employment, anything that contradicts your status as a U.S. permanent resident, understand that those posts exist and could come up in a secondary inspection. Step 5. Enroll in Global Entry if you are eligible. Global Entry is the CBP Trusted Traveler Program that allows pre-approved low-risk travelers to re-enter the United States through expedited processing. Enrollment requires a background check and an in-person interview at a CBP enrollment center. The program costs $100 for a 5-year membership. Members re-enter through dedicated kiosks and generally face significantly less scrutiny than standard passport control lanes. It is not a guarantee against secondary inspection, but it is a meaningful layer of protection and demonstrates that you have already been vetted by CBP. Step 6. If you are traveling to any country currently on DHS high-risk designation lists, be especially prepared with documentation. The combination of a high-risk destination and an extended trip length puts you in the highest scrutiny category under the current framework. For those trips specifically, the documentation in Step 2 is not optional. It is essential. Have it organized and accessible in your carry-on, not buried in checked luggage. Step 7. Consult a licensed immigration attorney before any trip that is longer than 30 days, involves a high-risk destination, or where your U.S. ties documentation is not completely current and clear. The cost of a 1-hour consultation with an immigration attorney before you travel is a fraction of the cost of what happens if re-entry goes wrong. An attorney can review your specific situation, identify your vulnerabilities, and advise you on what documentation you need and what steps to take before you depart. Here is the most important thing to understand about all of this. A green card is one of the most valuable immigration benefits the United States offers. People wait years, sometimes decades, to receive one. And the rules around maintaining it have always required permanent residents to actually make the United States their permanent home. Those rules have not changed. What has changed is how aggressively and how consistently they are being enforced at ports of entry right now. The green card holders who are going to be fine through this period are the ones who understand the rules, document their U.S. ties, travel thoughtfully, and are prepared when they land. The ones who are at risk are the ones who assume that because re-entry has always been easy for them, it will always be easy. That assumption is no longer safe to make. If this video helped you understand your risk and your options, please subscribe to this channel and share this video with any green card holder you know who is traveling this year. One conversation, one shared video could prevent a situation that takes years to recover from. And before you go, leave a comment and tell us your situation. Where are you traveling? How long is your trip? What country are you from? We read every comment, and your question could become the next video that protects thousands of people in a situation just like yours.